Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wrestling Academy, a podcast all about wrestling history with no linear timeline or trackable syllabus. So if you're a lifelong fan or you're brand new, this is the podcast for you. I am your Headmaster, Michael Classic.
And I am your Homecoming King, Samee Junio, and this is Summer School. All summer long, we're loosening our ties and letting down our soaking wet hair to break down Season 1 of WWE and MTV's 2001 wrestling competition show, Tough Enough.
That's right, 2001, back when groceries were reasonably priced.
2001, where all of us were walking around unhealed and saying whatever we damn well pleased at each other.
All we needed was a confessional-style camera, and we would reveal crazy shit, apparently.
Before we get into the breakdown of Tough Enough, we got some housekeeping to do. And I was thinking about this today. We are on a journey to get as many YouTube subscribers as possible, and as a perk for getting us to 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to put you, Michael, through a table for free. We're not charging anything for this. We're doing this for free.
If you subscribe to us and we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, our gift to you for absolutely free is my back is going to be fucked.
And, subscribing to us is also free. There's no subscription service. There's no hidden fees, no credit card minimums. This is just a free thing to do after going to youtube.com/@WrestlingAcademyPod.
What's so funny to me is everything you said 100% true, but the more you dig into it, the more it sounds like a scam. It's just like, look, you don't have to give us your social security number. You don't have to tell us where you live. If you just hit that subscribe button and we get to 1,000, I'm going to put Michael through a table. All that stuff is true, but when you start bringing up, it starts to feel like a scam the more we insist that it's free.
Look, number one, I am your Homecoming King, Samee Junio. Number two, you already gave that information to Google. Whatever. It's cool,
you give
man.
it to Google, give it to us, and then also just hit the subscribe button. That's all we want. So if you want to give us all your all your stuff to steal your identity, that's great. We just want you to hit the subscribe button. We get to 1,000. I'm going through a table. That's all we know about. We don't know about scams. We just know about...
we're dummies.
We just know about gravity and tables. That's it. Even though it is summer school, we are still on the hunt for Ween Kid, who is the mysterious phantom lurking in the shadows of Royal Rumble 2008. If you go to our socials, you'll find pin posts breaking down the whole thing. We need your clues to keep this investigation going. So if you have a tip, please go to our website, wrestlingacademy.university. You can leave us a tip there, or you can hit up the anonymous Ween Kid tip line. That number is 708-669-4512. Ween Kid is out there. We will not rest until we find them. Ween Kid, we are coming for thee.
For thee.
For thee. Whoa.
This is proof that we have not rested since our Royal Rumble episode. We have been awake for months on end.
I've been thinking about this so hard. I went back to the Middle Ages to try to get some goddamn answers.
For thee.
For thee. Cool. Yeah. Great. Energy-wise, dude, this is going to be a great episode.
I'm so ready for this. I'm ready for this. What are we covering today?
Samee, today we are having dinner with Pat Patterson, and then we are going out to a drag bar for dinner when we cover episodes 5 and 6 of Tough Enough Season 1. But before we dive in, Samee, what's been happening so far?
I'm so glad you asked, Headmaster. MTV and WWE selected 13 wrestling hopefuls and thrust them into a grueling 9-week wrestling training program that will end in one man and one woman proving that they are tough enough. All the contestants live together in a big house, train every day, and are subject to some unorthodox methods applied by tough but fair trainers Al Snow, Miss Jackie, and Tori. Odd, creepy Uncle vibed John Gaburik, aka Big, and Taz, whose attitude towards the contestants was so rotten that I kind of just hope that he was in character the entire time. Tough Enough is an elimination-based competition, but thus far, we've only gotten self-eliminations from a stunt woman named Victoria, a Playboy hopeful named Bobby Joe, and a bodybuilder who just wanted to go back to his girlfriend, Jason. Who's left? We have Ivy League Chris, Baseball Greg, Dancer Nydia, and Ladies Man Maven. They look to be the top of the class while Bad Boy Darryl, Tall Paulina, and Shadrick McGee continue to leave the gym day after day with their heads hung low. There's also Taylor, but aside from her candle starting a fire in last week's episode, she has blended into the background. We last saw the contestants with light in their eyes after going to a live taping of SmackDown, with every one of them ready to prove that they are tough enough.
Dude, I'm so excited. These two episodes, huge Taylor episodes.
Huge Taylor episodes. And we were hoping and dreaming for Taylor to hit the spotlight. And boy, does she.
I wanted her to be in one scene. And here she is in multiple scenes. People are doing talking heads about her. Taylor has arrived, dude. An episode, it only took midway through the season for Taylor to show up.
It only took 3 people to eliminate themselves for Taylor to step up to the bait plate.
The bait plate has been set and Taylor is chomping down.
Bait plate.
So that brings us to episode 5, Dinner with Mr. Patterson. Original air date July 19th, 2001. Samee, do you have any alternate titles for this episode?
Yeah, my alternative title would be, hey, this episode was 10 minutes long when it originally aired because the exclusive footage took up a lot of time.
My alternate title would be, who knew that grocery shopping would be literally the most exciting thing that happens this episode?
My alternative title is Dinner with Taylor! Exclamation point.
Alternate title, Taylor steps into the spotlight and immediately makes enemies. But to get to what we're talking about, let's just jump into the episode. So we start at the Tough Enough training facility tracks where our contestants are running drills. At this point, they've been working on the basic flat back bump for something like 3 weeks. And Tall Paulina, Shadrick McGee, and Bad Boy Darryl are struggling to master even the basics of wrestling training.
I do love that the first words uttered in this episode were of Al saying, "Whoa, Ritalin boy, whoa," to Hot Tub Chris.
Yeah, Hot Tub Chris coming in hot this episode.
Maybe too hot.
Maybe he needs to stay away from the jacuzzi forever.
And women.
And society. Despite being told that his form is terrible, we get a talking head from Bad Boy Darryl saying that he is very confident that he is still number 1 at the house.
The editing here was really unfair, and it really just showed us that Darryl is delusional, but it really does feel like he does have a really bad edit.
Yeah, they're really giving him a villain edit here because it'll just cut to him beefing it so hard at training, and then it'll cut to him being like, this is like basically my competition to lose. And you're just like,
which is
that cannot be true. After training, the contestants are told that they have a special guest at the house, the very first Intercontinental Champion in the WWF, Mr. Pat Patterson.
And they talk about being nervous and cooking dinner for him, which confused me a little bit because I don't understand why they would make these fucking knuckleheads cook somebody they're supposed to respect dinner. I don't know about you, but after 5 episodes of watching them fumble, the last thing I would want to do is have them cook for a stranger.
100%. No part of this made any sense. It's not a challenge. It's basically just like, hey, you guys are going to have a wrestling legend come through. Cook him dinner. What? That's not what we signed up for. I'm struggling to do flat back bumps. I don't know how to cook rigatoni or whatever the fuck. Like, what are we doing, you guys? What is this?
Right. It was really weird. I came to the conclusion that it was possibly a production budget thing, but as we continue on, budgets are a little bit of a tense issue at Tough Enough House.
Budgets are about to become a huge villain of the episode. So the contestants are eager to impress. So we have Ivy League Chris, Dancer Nydia, Ladies Man Maven, and Taylor head to the grocery store to stock up, but there's a problem. They were given $100 for all the groceries, but their eyes were a little bit bigger than their stomachs, and they ended up spending nearly double that. Ivy League Chris is able to foot the bill and then goes around to the other contestants in the house to see if they can pay him back, basically. Everybody's happy to do so, except for Bad Boy Darryl, who flat out refuses to pay because it was their fault for going over budget. So Darryl is like, You guys went out. You didn't discuss it with any of us. You spent more money, and now you're coming back to us to see if we'll pay you back for money we didn't agree to spend.
Yeah.
So, Samee, let me hit you with some cold, hard facts.
Please.
The grocery bill was $185.
Oh, say it ain't so.
Meaning every contestant is being asked to pay $8.50.
No, dude.
Darryl. Would you be mad if you showed up to wrestling training and your teammates started acting like this was some kind of cooking camp? This isn't the Bear, Samee. This is tough enough. And now they're expecting you to pay your hard-earned $8.50? Money that in 2001, Samee, you could use to buy a luxury such as 4 sodas, 3 gallons of gasoline, or half of a CD like Vespertine by Bjork, Fever by Kylie Minogue, or Pain is Love by Ja Rule. All CDs that were released in 2001. And if this doesn't convince you, Samee, I don't know what will. Let me just, you're thinking about $8.50 as though it's 2024 money. Let's adjust for inflation, which I did. I put it into an inflation calculator. $8.50 in 2001 money equals $15 in today's money. So I ask you, Samee, whose side do you fall on? Do you fall on Ivy League Chris's side, just pay him back the $8.50, or do you fall on Darryl's side? Hell no, that's my money. I'm going to keep it.
I'm reminded of when I'm bored enough to look at people's Venmo transactions.
Yeah.
And how much money is exchanged.
That is always like, I need to get a hobby. Why am I looking at that? Like, what am I doing? Right? Like, I need to call a friend. I need to call my mom. I need to do something.
I would be totally fine to pitch in the $15 or the $8.50. I think it's a little much that Darryl has such a big issue with this, but who knows? Maybe he was trying to save up to buy a new fucking attitude.
It was like Jimmy Eat World's Bleed American is coming out soon. I gotta save another $8.50 to be able to get that whole CD. So, Samee, here's the thing. I too was originally on Ivy League Chris's side until I watched the cooking montage of what they were making. Here's what they were making, Samee.
Yeah.
Pasta. Salad.
Okay.
Where the hell did that money go? How did they spend almost $200 of 2001 money when groceries were basically free, unlike today?
I'll say this. They were cooking for a house of 11.
But so I also was thinking, like, okay, maybe they bought a bunch of beer or something. Maybe they just like spent, okay, we'll do this and then we'll buy booze. When it cuts to them eating, they're all drinking sodas. So I don't know where this money went. I don't know where the extra $100 went. I don't know where they spent that money. It was honestly driving me crazy. And it got to the point where I was a little bit like, am I agreeing with Darryl right now?
Looking at how Darryl reacted to Triple H in a previous episode, it kind of makes sense that he does not care to feed a man he doesn't know.
Yeah, but Samee got biblical. What would it cost to feed a man you don't know? It really makes me think.
$8.50 in 2001.
$8.50. Ivy League Chris and Darryl go back and forth, and they really both kind of dig in. And you can see, I think Ivy League Chris basically just gives up, and he's like, you know what, fine, I'll just cover yours because you won't do it. Pat Patterson shows up, and he talks to the contestants about what drew them into wrestling. And then our girl Taylor, she pops up and she starts talking about how it's something she always wanted to do. And she's so grateful to get this opportunity. And then it immediately cuts to tall Paulina being like, Taylor's such a suck.
Dude, that's so rude. That is so rude.
She has not been in all 5 of these episodes. And the second she says anything, it cuts to her talking at it being like, Taylor needs to shut up.
That is so rude. I think, not to sound like Darryl, but I do feel like these talking heads from the other contestants were showing their jealousy a little bit.
So then I also feel like the other question that Taylor asks at the dinner is, so do you think women's wrestling is going to get better? And then it cuts to Ivy League Chris being like, God, she always has nothing to say. And she always just wants to chime in. You're like, this sounds very reasonable to me. She's just asked like, yeah, I'm following my dreams. And hey, I want to compete in the women's division. Is that getting better? And then everybody's immediately like, God, we need to get Taylor the fuck out of the house.
They hard cut to them setting her bed on fire.
Okay. So during dinner, we then cut to an exclusive footage segment where Pat tells some stories about life on the road and some hijinks he got into. And I'll be honest with you, these were some straight up grandpa stories.
It was really like watching them felt like getting my teeth pulled. And then I felt really bad because it showed the contestants hanging on every fucking word. And it felt like a bummer because either they were acting their asses off or they were really, really into these stories, which sucks so bad.
Yeah, it's just like, Grandpa, tell me about World War II.
Well, during World War II, I found out that I love karaoke.
Whoa, cool. Thank you so much for this opportunity to sit under the learning tree. But I guess it says, you're right. It is cutting around, and there are people like Taylor who apparently the house thinks is a total ass kisser. It's just sitting there just totally wrapped up in everything. But then it cuts over to Darryl, who seems to have kind of a normal reaction, which is, I want to be anywhere else. Like, I would rather be asleep right now. And I guess I just wanted to check in. How is your poker face? Like, if you were in this situation, are you good at being able to pretend like you care, or would you be busted by the cameras immediately?
Busted immediately. Every single microphone would pick up the heaviest sigh. I would start being like, oh my God, I wish I were dead.
So we are back at tracks the very next day, and Shadrach is struggling with training, but he's not the only one. Tall Paulina is also trailing the rest of her teammates, and doubt is starting to build. But then we see bad boy Darryl take a bump, and this looks, he's like locking up with Josh and takes a really bad tumble, and he lands directly on his neck. It's so bad to the point where Al Snow takes him out of line, takes him away from everybody else, and is really just like, I never want to see something like that ever again. You are being a danger to yourself and other people. And if we can't pick it up, I'm going to have to take you out of line when we're doing these wrestling exercises, just so you don't hurt anybody. While we're mid lecturing from Al Snow, it cuts to a talking head of Darryl being like, I have everything that it takes to win, but I'm not winning at the moment. And it really, again, they're not doing Darryl any favors with this edit, because he just straight up landed on his neck. He gets pulled out of line. And when Al is like, hey, you messed up, like, this is super unsafe, you can see Darryl being like, yeah, I understand. And then it cuts to his tucking heads. I got all the tools to win this thing.
I'm winning this, baby. It's like, Darryl.
It also got me thinking, because Darryl's confidence was really starting to inspire me in a weird way. And I was wondering, is there anything that you're wildly confident you could do despite never having done it before?
Honestly, there's always a moment where I think I'll be really, really good at everything that's new. And then when it comes time to do it, reality kicks in, and it's pretty humbling.
The main one that popped out in my mind is hack the mainframe. You just put me in a hacker movie and they're like, hack into Fort Knox, dude. I'd be like, I feel like I could do it. And then it would immediately cut to like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go.
It's just you just unplugging a computer. Like, I did it.
Yeah, I unplugged it. I plugged it back in, and that didn't fix anything. After training, in the car on the way home, Darryl mentions that because of his size, and keep in mind, Darryl is 6'7", 350 pounds, that he needs an extra boost from the people he's working with. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to hit those bumps. And of course, that means he's going to struggle here. And I a little bit understand what he's saying, but I also a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I was wondering what you thought about this, Samee.
His big old spill that we saw that resulted in him getting scolded yet again by Al Snow was he was paired up with Josh, who I'm pretty sure is a foot shorter than him and probably
150, 200 pounds lighter.
Yeah. So it really is like it's like a 50-50 thing, because if you think about like anybody wrestling Rey Mysterio, they're not just falling on their necks and being like, well, if Rey can't help me, it's Rey's fault.
I agree. It was one of those things where it gave me a little bit to think about of just, yeah, Darryl has disadvantages that he needs to overcome in this, but in the same way that Josh also has disadvantages, where it's like, because he's smaller than everybody else, he has to work in different ways. So it's like, because Darryl is bigger than everybody else, it's like, okay, well then he also has to do it. There is a nice moment between Shadrach and Darryl back at the house where Shadrach admits that he was kind of skeptical of Darryl at first, and he was sort of talking about him behind his back, and he sees how hard Darryl's working. And I think Shadrick also is like, hey, I am also struggling with this. So from one guy who's like trying his best and struggling to another guy, like, I see you and I see that you're putting in the work. And then Darryl, I think, is grateful to hear from Shadrick, like, hey, I feel like you probably weren't the only person talking about me behind my back. And Darryl, again, comes to the conclusion that WWE is the land of giants. And so Darryl absolutely has an advantage over everybody else because he's the size you would need to be in the land of giants. And so he feels like people were maybe a little bit jealous of him.
Darryl's behavior and like his excuses kind of make me feel like he didn't actually play football.
Can I tell you a story that I may or may not edit out? My 6th grade year, there was a big sign-up sheet where you could sign up for sports at the beginning of the year. And I signed up to be on the baseball team. And then I woke up and it was like, okay, you can either tell your mom that you're on the baseball team and go to baseball, or you can just watch cartoons. And so I decided I would rather just watch cartoons. So I'm just going to pretend like I didn't remember that I was on the baseball team. And so the whole season goes by. They take us all out of class for baseball team pictures.
Oh my God.
And so they took pictures of me on the team and I didn't have a uniform. And so they made me and a kid who was on the baseball team, they were like, hey, Michael, his name was also Michael. They're like, Michael, take off your uniform and let Michael switch into it so he can take his baseball team pictures. And while he's taking off all his baseball gear and handing it to me, he's like, he's not even on the team. And then our gym teacher goes, hey, maybe he'll show up for a game. And I was like, yeah, I think I actually will. And so of course I didn't do it. And so that year they print out pictures of the entire baseball team and I'm on the baseball team. They have individual player pictures of me in a baseball uniform. And at the end of the year, they hand out participation trophies for everybody on the baseball team. And I get a trophy.
Oh my God.
I was never on the baseball team and everybody on the baseball team was so pissed off at me. Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, is the fact that like maybe Darryl was never on the football team, actually, I could support that worldview because I was on a baseball team that I was never on. I had photo proof that I was on the baseball team.
That is wild.
But we don't have time to process any of that, Samee, because producer Big drops by the house to lecture everybody about how the place is a pigsty and you guys got to start tidying up after yourself. And after kind of being a wet blanket and lecturing everybody, he kind of gets this little grin and goes, but who's trying to go out tonight?
Dude, oh man, this whole scene was really confusing to me and made me feel weird. I think only in the sense that in reality shows now we're used to the host and them having a gravitas and showing up and there's cameras, they have an entrance or whatever. But producer Big just like waltzes into his own house and then sits down on the couch all the time talking to these kids, asks if they want to go grab beers. It makes me feel a little weird.
It a little bit felt like maybe he was off duty. So he just he rolled in not in his producer capacity. It was basically just like, hey, who's trying to get drunk tonight?
Right. Hey, let's go, boys. Yeah, it was
so he grabs
strange.
Maven, Darryl, Josh, and Baseball Greg for a little boys' night out. This is where it also feels a little bit off duty because he issues a little bit of a challenge for the boys.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to play a game of darts. And if you lose, the one loser owes the other winners 10 push-ups each. And as an extra caveat, so like, let's say I lose, I owe Samee 10 push-ups. And then Samee can cash those push-ups in whenever they want. It could be anytime, any place. Samee says, I'm cashing in one push-up. I have to drop down, do a push-up, and say, I am Samee's bitch. So this is the rule of the game that the producer is making these cast members play.
I kind of still don't understand the rules. Do the 10 push-ups reset every new location?
No, it's just you have 10 total. So I think you just kind of cash them in whenever you want. And so I think it's back to budgeting, Samee. You got to budget your push-ups.
I have never been in any situation where I lost a bet and had to claim that I was somebody's bitch. But this does feel fitting for 2001. Although, man, I really hate it.
Me too. It definitely felt, again, this all felt like Big went off duty here and they were just hanging out with John. They were not hanging out with producer Big. And he's like, hey, I got an idea. What if we played darts for power.
Oh, God.
Dude, what's going on here? Some bad's going on here. So Big lays out the game. The boys are interested. We cut back to the house where we find our girl Taylor is journaling. And then we get an extended talking head where she opens up about being really depressed, being in a really bad place in her life. And until she joined the Tough Enough cast, and she basically dropped out of school, and her family is not happy about it.
We get a snippet of a phone conversation between Taylor and her dad is telling her that he just can't see her having a career in wrestling, and it is so upsetting, and it really does suck. And knowing that this was happening and then seeing her light up and ask some really sincere questions of their dinner guest earlier, and then having her housemates be so mean about it. Oh, Taylor.
But Samee,
yeah,
we don't have time to unpack any of that because we cut back to the bar and Darryl lost in darts. That means he owes 40 push-ups.
In a shock to no one, we hear Darryl before the darts game even started. He says, "I'm about to whoop everyone's ass real quick at darts." Like, no, you're not, Darryl.
And then he loses immediately. And he is now on the hook for 10 push-ups from producer Big, from Josh, from Baseball Greg, and from Maven. And Maven, I gotta say, is loving the power.
Of course.
He already is escalating from the, drop and say I'm Maven's bitch. He's now escalating dares to being like, hey, Darryl, I'll knock off 2 push-ups if you get out of this car right now and then run the rest of the way home. Or like, hey, Darryl, I'll knock off 2 push-ups if you take off your shirt and then go to that grocery store. And I just want to remind you, last episode, Maven was insisting that he did not have a problem with Darryl's behavior at the house, but he is hazing the fuck out of Darryl this episode.
And Darryl is being a pretty good sport about doing all of this. He shows up, he runs home. We see footage of the van behind him and the headlights. You see his little legs going all the way home. It's very shocking.
It's a harrowing scene because they're making him run through the woods in front of the car. And so all he can see is the light from the high beams. And so he's being pursued by a car and they're just like, run, Darryl, run.
And they're just cackling in the van.
And Samee is totally right. I think Darryl is being a real good sport about all this. So he doesn't complain. He can get talked into doing some of these escalated dares to knock off some of the push-ups. And you never see him complain as opposed to when he's training, when he complains all the time.
Yeah, I don't really understand stepping up to the plate in humiliation games. But then when it comes down to training for the show that you're on, there's nothing. Very strange to me.
Very strange indeed. So at tracks the next day, producer Big comes in with the largest shit-eating grin on his face. And he lets everybody know about Darryl and his push-ups. And as a gift, producer Big gives his 10 push-ups to Al Snow and Tori to dole out as they see fit. But Al Snow says, all jokes aside, they will be making their next cut tomorrow. So today is the day to show your stuff. Tension is built, like, show us your stuff. Then it cuts to an exclusive footage where everybody's doing yoga, and I guess I just wanted to clear some space here, Samee, just to go, what's going on with this exclusive footage stuff? It is so strange. Here's some examples of exclusive footages that we've gotten so far. Episode 2, we had Taz looking as though he felt bad about the mud wrestling. Mm-hmm. In episode 4, we have Stephanie McMahon fishing for a compliment. This episode currently, we have Pat Patterson telling a long story about karaoke or something. And now we're doing yoga with Tori? What's going on? What is going on with these exclusive footages? They're so weird.
Exclusive footage usually means stuff that we want to see. But this yoga exclusive footage was 4 minutes of them just sincerely doing yoga and Tori being strangely very emotional about it.
Yeah, it seemed like something happened at that yoga that we weren't present for because she was just like, the way you guys just did the yoga is so great. This wasn't about the yoga, dude. Something was going on. It
wasn't. Anyways, exclusive footage, yeah, it's odd. How do you feel about exclusive footage?
I actually really love them. No, of course they suck. Of course they sucked. And they also just come at weird places in the episode. So it felt like it was just padding it out so it would be at least 20 minutes long is what it felt like to me.
There's so much exclusive footage in this episode, and it ended up topping out at 26, 23 minutes. So we only had like 10 minutes of episode. And they were goofing off for most of it.
I don't know. The exclusive footage is weird, and I know it's not going away for the rest of this season, but I hope it never comes back for the subsequent seasons of Tough Enough. I hope they get rid of this exclusive footage bullshit. But anyways, back at tracks, everybody is going hard to show their stuff to the trainers. Shadrick goes so hard that he pukes. And we're jumping around to people doing training. It feels like Josh and Taylor are soaring while Paulina and Darryl are struggling. And then we intercut this workout, showing your stuff montage to show Al Snow and Tori collecting their push-up tacks from Darryl. So it'll be people working hard, cut Darryl being like, no, I'm Al Snow's bitch. And then it's like people working hard, cut to, I'm Tori's bitch.
I did appreciate how Darryl switched up how he said, I'm Tori's bitch, or I'm Al Snow's bitch. It's like, okay, fun. We're having fun.
Yeah, he's having fun with it, not taking it too personally. After a tough day of training, the trainers get together and evaluate the contestants. Who do you feel like's on the chopping block at this point in the episode?
I think Darryl, Shadrick, Paulina.
I would say that's another one of my main criticisms of Tough Enough so far is you have a pretty good idea who's in trouble, whereas I feel like in modern reality shows, they do a much better job of, it could be this person, but it also could just as easily be this person. It's honestly pretty clear in these two episodes who's going home and why. So that night, it is the last night in the house for somebody on the cast. One of these contestants is going home tomorrow. People are dealing with it in different ways. So Shadrick is dealing with it by seeking comfort in Paulina, Taylor, and Nydia in the hot tub, while Maven makes Darryl strip down in a grocery store and spike a loaf of bread onto the ground to wipe out the rest of his push-ups.
Maven is telling Darryl to do this dare, and he's laughing so hard that it seems like it is the funniest thing he's ever told somebody to do. The task is Darryl takes his shirt off, screams something about its breakdown. He repeats it 3 times, spikes a loaf of bread, and then runs away. And Maven is in stitches.
Truly on the floor laughing so hard.
And what was it? 3 push-ups?
When he does this, the agreement escalates to I think Darryl being like, I'm not going to do that for 2 push-ups. And it's basically everybody's push-ups will be wiped clean. So if you do this, you don't have to worry about push-ups ever again. They're heading into the gym, and then this is where it is revealed how eliminations will work on Tough Enough. So they're going to go into the locker room, open up their locker to switch into their gear, and someone will have a red tag hanging in their locker. And that, if you get the red tag, that means you're cut. Something to do all the time in sports. It was a big plot point in the movie Major League, which was a movie I watched all the time when I was homesick as a kid.
I did not know that this was something that happened in sports. Is that how they communicate that you're cut from the team?
Yeah.
What?
It's truly, you could be at a training camp and then you go to your locker, you get the red tag, you're cut.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, right? It's pretty brutal, right?
Yeah, I don't love it. They could just, suck it up. They're tough enough. You should just tell them to their face. Like, hey, you're not good enough.
Well, what's weird is you go in, you get the red tag, then you come out and say goodbye to everybody. So it doesn't, there's no, you're immediately off the show. And again, I think this is the 2001, this is the very first season, and we're so early in reality TV shows that they don't know to build that drama yet. So they really could have just been like, the person we eliminate is Darryl, and then do the same thing. You know what I mean? But
yeah. But of course they did it that way and put 10 cameras in separate lockers.
And this is 2001. They didn't have GoPro, so they're just loading up huge cameras in everybody's locker.
A giant camcorder. Darryl, it's not in yours, we swear. It's giant camcorders. It's like stuffed into a locker.
Yeah, it doesn't close all the way. Just got it.
Somebody's just stuffed in there.
So as everyone suits up for the day, Darryl discovers that he is the first person to pull the red tag, meaning Darryl is the first official cut, but the 4th contestant overall who has been deemed not tough enough.
Yeah, I think the writing on the wall was hear kind of the whole entire show up until this point that Darryl was gonna go. My question to you, Michael, is without the self-eliminations, in a world where those didn't happen, where wife guy Jason sucked it up, where Victoria never landed on her head, and Bobby Joe wanted to be in Playboy and the WWE, do you think that Darryl would have been the first to cut? Do you think
I think so. I think he was always going to be on the chopping block just because he was having issues with people in the house, but also felt like he was having issues with the trainer. And so I think they were just doing it to keep things running smooth.
So that was episode 5, and now we're on episode 6, A Walk on the Wild Side. Its original air date was July 26th, 2001. Do you have any alternative titles in mind for A Walk on the Wild Side, Michael?
Mine might be Taz is nice?
Taz relaxed? Question mark?
Yeah, alternate title, Taz good teacher?
Taz good now? Question mark? All right, so here we go. This episode starts with Al saying that he wishes he didn't have to eliminate Darryl. Don't lie to us, Al. But it was necessary. With Darryl gone, Shadrack McGee is nervous that he's next. We cut to the ring where everyone is flat back falling. Every single trainer present calls Shadrack out. And Miss Jackie seems to have taken Shadrack under her wing because she really wants him to succeed.
What's a bummer about Shadrack not getting the hang of it is you can tell that he wants this so bad. He is trying so hard, and he is just not able to get it. It is a bummer to watch.
Ugh, yeah, sweet Shadrack. Taz finally makes an appearance, and he's in the ring teaching everybody a single leg Boston Crab. As we kind of alluded to earlier, he's being nice and level-headed and not a menace? Mayhaps the mud wrestling debacle sobered him up a little bit.
I hope so, because honestly, when Taz was coming in and giving all these kids all this no BS, he tough but fair wrestling advice, I thought he was honestly a lot more nurturing to these kids than friggin' Al Snow is. And Al Snow's their main trainer.
Yeah, it was just such a shock. And you know, that exclusive footage where we caught Taz being a little bit remorseful about the mud, but also telling the contestants about the run home, where he said, oh, it's just going to be kind of a light jog. I think that was a sliver of the reality of Taz.
That was the real Taz.
I think that was real Taz.
So you're saying when he's a teacher, that's when he's real. That's the real him.
Yeah.
We knew Taz was a good guy. If you go back to episode 1, we knew that underneath his hard shell there was a gooey candy center.
Yeah, we definitely knew, and weren't trying to get Taz canceled in 2024.
We've always been huge Taz fans in Wrestling Academy. We've always been sticking up for him.
Yeah, now we're just erasing everything. You can't listen to our episode covering episodes 1 and 2 because we deleted it.
We actually already broke it down. We broke it down at the beginning of this episode. You don't need to go back to hear how we feel about Taz.
Nope. Never existed. All right. So we see all of the contestants trying out their single leg Boston Crabs when the montage stops after Hot Tub Chris falls back on his wrists and elbows bent at 90 degrees. And that is Broken Bone City, and Al and Taz really want to drive that message home to Hot Tub Chris. Chris admits thinking that he was going to kick the doors open and be a superstar within hours. Chris is now falling into kind of Darryl's persona, where we're now seeing that he thought that he would just show up to Tough Enough and be really, really good at wrestling.
He showed up. Casting special, Miss Jackie told him to drop his pants, so he did, and he was like, I'm going to the stars, baby.
Back at the house, everyone is on the phone telling their loved ones that this has been a pretty tough week, but thankfully, the contestants found a perfect place to blow off steam. It's Lucky Chengs in New York City. It's New York City's first restaurant and bar to employ an all drag queen and trans women staff. And guess what, Michael? Lucky Chengs is still operational today and still employs drag queens and trans women. And guess what again? It's time for a freaking pop quiz!
Oh no! Oh, pop quiz! Here we go!
Lucky Chengs is kind of a kind of a big deal, honestly, and was a big deal back then, and it's still a big deal now. And because of that, it has been featured in a lot of TV series. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to list out 6 shows.
Okay.
One of them is not a show that featured Lucky Chengs.
Okay.
And you'll have to tell me which one it is. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Sex and the City, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, CSI New York, Jersey Shore, and The Long Island Medium.
These are all good.
These
are all really good.
They're great.
For what, man, every time I want to say, well, certainly not this one. Here's the thing.
Yes.
Here's what I think.
Yes, sound it out, please.
And I could be totally wrong here. But I wanted my first immediate guess was CSI New York. But then I was like, no. They love to go to strange and unusual kitschy restaurants. That's what I know about the CSI procedural franchise. I was like, it's got to be them. So I almost wonder, is it a curveball? Queer Eye for the Straight Guy.
Oh my God. You sounded it out. I'm very impressed with your deductions. It is not correct.
No!
Unfortunately, you were wrong. And it was CSI New York. That was
CSI New York betrayed me.
So on the in the About section on their website, they list out those shows and plus a few more. They list out Bethany Ever After, America's Next Top Model, but shockingly, Tough Enough Season 1 did not make their name drop list.
Whoa, weird. I mean,
I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, which I guess would also get into, do we need to issue just a little bit of a content warning for this next part of the section? So
yeah,
if you're going to watch Tough Enough Season 1, after we break it all down, I would say, what is the timestamp, Samee? From
3 minutes and 38 seconds in to about 7 minutes.
They are using a lot of outdated terms to refer to the staff. I would say they're not using anything hatefully. They're using it all pretty ignorantly, but it's all there.
Yeah.
And so I would say, I honestly was really surprised when I found out they were going to a drag bar. I was like, oh God, oh no. I thought everybody was going to be really weird and uncool, but I feel like on the whole, everybody is cool. This was made in 2001, so they're going to say some stuff that's bad.
Yeah, it sucks a little bit. So I wasn't shocked by this, but the boys were shocked, or at least pretending to be shocked and scandalized by all the drag queens a little bit. They're like, oh, we've never seen anything like this. I'm like, come on, guys.
I think everybody except for Baseball Greg. I feel like Baseball Greg was unlocked, and that boy's a star. That boy belongs on the stage. That's what I learned at Lucky Chengs.
The drag queens selected Baseball Greg and Ivy League Chris to get up and strip and dance, and they even cut to people shoving dollar bills in their underwear. And again, we are shocked that these dudes were really happy to do it.
Baseball Greg goes down to his underwear. He goes fully for it.
You know, it really is like seeing him in the ring and committing to that, and then seeing him in a drag restaurant in his underwear. He really does commit, and it really is just shows that he has that, you know, that performer's blood. Like, he'll show up and he'll do the thing. And then outside of Baseball Greg and Ivy League Chris, Ladies Man Maven was chosen to be given a drag makeover and debuted as Anita Facelift. Do you have any thoughts on Ladies Man Maven or Ladies Man Anita Facelift?
I thought they honestly gave him a pretty modest dress to come out in. I thought the wig was great. I thought the lipstick was great. But I also was just, it took me to the point where I was like, they made him come out in a fucking turtleneck? Like, what is it? And I was like, oh, it is a dress.
Yeah, it's like a ribbed sweater dress, which are coming back into fashion now, horrifyingly. For some reason, I was expecting a full drag transformation, like we're seeing in,
I thought that would have been so fun.
Drag Race. But they put a wig on him, sunglasses, and this dress, and Hot Tub Chris reacted pretty positively to Anita Facelift, and he even said, he makes a great-looking woman, and I want his number. And to that I say, not so fast, Hot Tub Chris. We know exactly what you would do with that woman.
Yeah, I'm speaking to Anita Facelift right now. Don't go to the hot tub with Hot Tub Chris. Stay away from Hot Tub Chris.
Hot Tub Chris, bad news.
Bad news, dude.
After that big night, we are now back at the gym, and Chadwick is still, unfortunately, not getting it in the ring. Tori says that he's thinking a little bit too much and hurting her and her shoulder in the process. And Tori looked kind of scared too. She's like, you have to get this right or you're going to ruin my career for the next couple of months, which I didn't really think about until that moment when I saw this fear in her face.
People say it in the WWE all the time, but I think it just bears repeating. This is not ballet. And so this is a contact sport. You can get hurt even during training, even if you're one of the trainers who's an expert. If somebody doesn't know what they're doing, it's unsafe for everybody. So I think it's just going to show that it's like Shadrick is just he really needs to trust himself, and he just seems incapable of doing it, and the frustration is really starting to build on him.
So Maven is back at home on the phone with his mom and warns her about watching the drag episode. She teases him and calls him a dyke, which they bleeped out in 2001. I personally would have loved for them to bleep any of the other words that they said earlier. But who am I?
Would have been great.
Would have really eased my gay bones if they just bleeped out one or two of those words.
Or we're just also, just all of them, you know what I mean?
Well, I think we're also painting it worse than it was. I think there's just one or two times where I went, 2001, fuck.
Yeah, it's in that little segment where it's like, I think Ivy League Chris just like says some stuff offhandedly where it's like, oh yeah, it just makes you bristle a little bit. So we just wanted you to be aware.
So creepy Uncle Big comes over and intrudes on the contestants' night.
With just VHS tapes under his arm.
Look, when your creepy uncle comes over with a box of unmarked VHSs, you're in for a night.
And a night they were in for.
It is wrestling tapes, and he wants to, kind of watch and break down matches and promos with the contestants, but he notices that Stone Cold Josh isn't sitting with them, even though he says he loves wrestling so much. So Big, calls him over and asks what his deal is, and in the moment, in the room, Josh says, I don't know. And then we hard cut to Josh immediately, eloquently explaining why he doesn't like watching wrestling with his fellow contestants. And his explanation is that as spectators, his comrades are watching and pointing out bad bumps or wrestlers doing things wrong, which makes him mad because they are superstars and professionals. And his housemates, well, they're just chumps on a reality TV show.
They've all been doing bumps for, 3 weeks? And so just to watch Stone Cold or whoever and be like, did you see him not land that? It's like, I can understand how if you're a super fan like Stone Cold Josh is, that, yeah, I think for him, it's just coming from a place of respect. And I just want to shout that out because I do feel like deep down, that is the Wrestling Academy philosophy where first and foremost, we're fans. And so we're always going to try to approach it that way. So even when we're critical of stuff, we're trying to always have that context of like, yeah, well, we can't fucking do it.
Yeah.
So who are we to criticize something?
100%. I think that Josh was absolutely right on the nose.
I also just a little bit thought that it was so funny just to see him turn into just such a boy where it's like, Josh, express how you feel. And instead of being like, I don't fucking know. And then it cuts to him the next day being like, what I meant to say was deep down, I felt frustrated. And you're just like, just say it. Just say it.
Yeah, just like a scholar. Like, he knew exactly what he was feeling, but in the room confronted.
Let me just eat my cereal or whatever. I don't know.
I don't like it or something, I guess. Like, what?
Poor old Josh.
So back at Trax, Al announces that in 24 hours, another person will be cut. Hot Tub Chris is nervous that it may be him next. Shadrick is scolded again by Al, and we cut to him crying out of frustration. Miss Jackie tries to comfort him, and Al goes over, and Shadrick admits that the pressure is really screwing him up, and Al pleads with him and requests that Shadrick gives 100% from now on.
He's like, but don't do it for us. Give yourself 100%. And it's one of those things where this is what I honestly thought Tough Enough was going to be the entire time. I feel like the wife guy Jasons and the Bobby Joes were really getting in the way of just being like, yeah, it should be people wanting to do it and then overcoming their fear and their anxiety. And then, you get the tough love from Al Snow being like, you owe this to yourself. Like, don't even worry about me. Do this for you, man. And I was like, yeah, this is what the fuck I wanted the whole time. And it took us 6 episodes to get here.
As Taz said, our hero Taz said, they were weeding out the weak ones. And now we have a solid show. All right, so back in the ring, the crash pad has been removed, and its absence opens up a whole slew of issues. Hot Tub Chris is shown having some difficulties with his landing now, and Al recites his mid-level threat that sounds a little bit lifeless now that we're in episode 6. He goes, "You cannot continue to do that. If you continue to do that, we will not allow you to do this. You will end up hurting yourself or somebody else." And he literally says it like that.
Honestly, pretty good Al Snow impression, even down to the like weird stare forward that he does. Yeah, nailing it.
Thank you so much. I also know that I haven't mentioned this yet, but I think about it every episode. New shoulders goal, Al Snow? You kidding?
He's pretty ripped, dude.
Bro. Okay, Al. We see your deltoids. So Al threatens Hot Tub Chris, and now Hot Tub Chris is paired with Shadrick, and they both mess up at the same time. And Al takes that moment to humiliate them both and be like, "You are doing to Shadrick what Shadrick has been doing to everyone else, and vice versa. You guys are stupid. You have to get this right, or you're going to hurt each other." And now you know what that hurting feels like. So back at home, Taylor and Josh are talking about eliminations and who will be next to go. And Josh thinks it'll be Hot Tub Chris, or at least that's his pick. Taylor says that she doesn't want anyone to go, and Josh quickly backpedals and he says he doesn't want anyone to leave either, and it'll be Chris or me. And then Paulina and Taylor tell him to shut up, and he says he thinks it's because he's short, and if he was 6'4", nobody would have a freaking chance.
And I also just want to say, as somebody who loves to gossip, I felt for Josh in that scene where he was really trying to be like, "Hey, let's all gossip a little bit." And he was like, "Yeah, I kind of think that like Hot Tub Chris might be going home." And then Taylor's immediately like, "I don't want anybody to have to go." And you're like, "Oh, fuck you, Taylor." Like,
yeah.
You sandbagged me, dude. I thought we were gossiping.
Right.
It also does the wild thing where it pans out to show that tall Paulina had just been hanging out there the whole time.
Like, she's on her own bed being like, "Shut up."
Yeah, ready to take the gossip. But here's the thing, and this really pisses me off. When somebody great, like, let me just gobble up this gossip, but then doesn't want to kick in any, that sucks.
He tries to pivot and backpedal and be like, "I mean, I don't want anyone else to go. It'll be him or me."
It could be me. And yeah, it's like, but if you have seen Josh at any point in the training, dude is so good. He doesn't have anything to worry about, and he knows it, but I feel like he's just sort of...
He's covering his tracks for sure, because the girls were like, "Dude, you can't have a pick."
Yeah,
you can have a pick.
Oh, which again, the thing that also pisses me off the most is someone's like, "Oh, we shouldn't gossip at all," and you're like, "Okay,
yes,
I didn't realize we were in heaven right now, where no one is allowed to do stuff. We're in the fucking real world, dude. We gossip down here."
It kind of sucks though, because they were gossiping any second they could get about Darryl.
Of course.
But when Hot Tub Chris is on the line, charming, not moody Hot Tub Chris, not a murdering bone in his body Hot Tub Chris.
We know the real Hot Tub Chris.
Yeah,
this man needs to be gossiped about for public safety.
Big sits down with Tori, Miss Jackie, and Al to choose someone to eliminate. Miss Jackie says that Josh is a good bumper, but tends to be lazy sometimes. Tori calls him out for being in a phase where he comes off aloof. How humiliating would it be to just see footage of a trainer being like, "Oh yeah, he's in a fucking phase where he sucks."
And then it just cuts to B-roll of you being moody off to the side. That would
literally
suck.
On the apron, like just slumped over. You're in the gym, dude. What are you doing? So Hot Tub Chris is next, and Al says that he saw some improvement yesterday, but today Chris was tragic. Tori says he cringes at him, but Al thinks that there's a world in which he can be developed into something. And then sweet Shadrick's Polaroid comes up next. Al says it all chalks up to him being afraid to fail, and Miss Jackie gets emotional talking about how she comforted him, Shadrick, the other day. This is heartbreaking.
It really was. And it really sucks. If you watch the episode, Shadrick, he really wants this. And you can tell every time he messes it up, he knows that he messed it up. And he is trying so hard, and he is so frustrated. And I feel like you can't help but feel for him during this episode. Like, he really, in the past 2 episodes, he's been struggling, but you've seen him not for lack of trying.
Yeah, it really is a stark contrast between Darryl's villain edit and Shadrack's hero edit. We're back at the house, and Chris and Paulina are in the living room. Chris is pouting on the couch about being scared about the elimination tomorrow, and Paulina peeks around the computer that she's on.
I did love how Paulina was trapped by the communal computer that they all had to use. So she was coming in to probably just check her email or something. And then Chris is just moping on the couch being like, I'm probably going to be the next to go. And she has to be like,
no, you're
no,
cool, dude.
Man, no, you're good. You're good. He's like, no, I'm probably the worst wrestler who's ever existed. She's like, yeah, man, you got it, dude. It was a new move.
As she's emailing home, I hate this guy, Chris. Yeah. It's morning now, and the contestants are getting ready to get to tracks. Michael, did you notice that one of the boys' rooms, the walls are painted to be like army fatigues?
I just kind of feel like we shouldn't criticize the mansion that they live in, Samee, and I just think it reflects poorly on you for doing that.
It does. It does. I'm so sorry. I should really give the house its flowers and...
Yeah, let's just keep the mansion talk respectful, you know what I mean? Yeah, fuck that mansion, dude. That mansion sucks.
Come on, man! Al stands in front of the contestants, saying that he hates elimination days, and he reminds them that if they really want to be a wrestler, this should not be the end for them, and that they should keep on trying. Do you think that that was some hidden messaging for the person that they're cutting?
Yeah, as soon as he said it, I knew exactly who was getting eliminated. There was a little bit of mystery. I was like, oh, this could go either way, honestly. And then as soon as Al Snow said that, I was like, oh shit, I know who's getting eliminated. No.
Yeah, unfortunately, today was Shadrack's day to leave, and the people are bummed. He has a long hug with Paulina, and they kiss on the cheek, I think? Do you think that they loved each other?
I just want to remind you of this, Samee. If we go back to the casting special, Shadrack is the one who they're like, hey, do you have a girlfriend back home? And he's like, and so then they're also like, yeah, you're going to try to like hook up with all the women in the house, right? And he was just like, I got to do me. That was Shadrack. Shadrack's the one who did that. I think Shadrack could have had anyone he wanted to in that house, including the trainers. Like, it really felt like everybody was hugging him. It goes to Nydia, gives an equally tender hug and kiss. Miss Jackie gives him a hug and kiss. Tori, they have like a, well, do I shake your hand? I guess I'll come in. You know what I mean? It was like a very like, whoa, Tori seems a little bit flustered. So I'm bummed that Shadrack did not progress as far in his wrestling training, but in his able to get with any woman he wants to training, my man is a pro.
This is blowing my mind.
Paulina's falling for him, and then I'm just thinking of Shadrack's girlfriend back home. Being like, I wonder how wrestling training is going. I love my man. I love Shadrack so much. I hope he wins something.
I wonder if he knows where we stand.
Yeah, I can't wait for him to come home so he can define this relationship.
Oh my God, Shadrack. All right. Well, as you mentioned, Miss Jackie does give Shadrack a hug, and then she immediately starts weeping once she's in his handsome, charming arms. And they hold each other for quite a bit, and it's really sweet and really emotional, and it's definitely not like any of the other eliminations that we've seen so far.
Yeah, so far, whenever somebody's been eliminated, Al Snow's just like, oh, well, put their chair on the wall. This is the first one everyone's like, damn, dude. And then I think even Al Snow's give him a hug, and he's like, keep going, keep trying. Like, just because it didn't work out here does not mean you're not meant to do this. Like, keep pushing it. This is really what you want to do. So
yeah.
This we have not seen Al Snow say this to anybody else who's quit.
No.
So this was an emotional elimination.
This really was, but unfortunately, Shadrack was not tough enough. Michael, how are you feeling about the rest of the contestants, the rest of the cast?
I feel like once we get Hot Tub Chris out of the mix, I'm going to be so sad to watch people get eliminated. Like, once we get rid of that guy, everybody else I am a fan of and rooting for. And so it will be sad to see people one by one get eliminated.
Do you think that we've seen the last of the self-eliminations?
Because I think the only person I think would quit would be Shadrack because he wasn't getting it. And so everybody else seems like they're in it for the long haul. So unless somebody gets injured in a weird way, I feel like it's going to be eliminations from here on out.
We didn't even see Paulina have a confessional where she says that she doesn't know why she deserves to be there over anyone else.
She's too heartbroken, dude. Her heart is broken.
I mean, she might self-eliminate just to go home with Shadrach.
What if it just cut to her confessional and her being like, I'm in love with him, and you're like, what? It's Paulina!
I would love that. Because this show, even though it is a competition reality show, you can kind of feel it trying to be like 6 other shows at once. It wouldn't surprise me if it ended up with contestants falling in love.
Moving forward, who are you high on? Who are you feeling good about? Who are you feeling bad about, or otherwise?
Baseball Greg, roll deep for the dude. I want to see more footage of Taylor in the ring. I don't think we get a lot of her in the montages or whatever. But because she's so determined, according to her journal diaries, I would love to see her commitment and see how hard she's working.
You know, we were begging for a drop of Taylor, and here we got a whole glass of Taylor. How did we feel once we got to experience her for the first time?
I feel really good. I think that as we talked through, we don't agree with the other contestants about her being a brown noser. In fact, I think that was really endearing what she was trying to get out of Pat Patterson. We got our wishes, and now I can't get enough of Taylor. I want to see more. That was our recap of episodes 5 and 6 of Tough Enough Season 1. Thank you for listening to Wrestling Academy, hosted, produced, and edited by Michael Classic and me, Samee Junio. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, please YouTube, at Wrestling Academy Pod, and send us an email at wrestlingacademypod@gmail.com.
You can follow, rate, and leave a positive review wherever you get your podcast, but check out Spotify, where we have Q&As or polls for every single episode. And please, if you have any information on Ween Kid, go to our website at wrestlingacademy.university to send in an anonymous tip, or call the Ween Kid tip line and leave us a voicemail at 708-669-4512. Ween Kids out there, we're going to find you. Class dismissed. I never get to say
school,
it.
Baby.
I never get to say class dismissed. Yes. Yes.